Welcome back, everybody. This is Michael Levitas from JurisQ.com, and we bring you back Stephen Yuniver, an attorney, a partner in Sinayskaya Yuniver, a firm that deals with different matters, including very heavily focusing on commercial real estate and doing business in the state of New York. Stephen, first of all, thank you for your time. We welcome you back. And we talked at our previous sessions about where you should incorporate, what state, Delaware, possibly others, considerations in signing a lease, buying property. Today, I want to hit a very important topic, which is a little dicey, which is dealing with friends and family in business. As you know, as you've seen, and you do a lot of litigation, it's important to know that you do also litigation, so you see the problems that come up among friends and family doing business. So I want to talk about that, because people think, oh, it's amazing, my best friend, John, him and I grew up together. Not only are we going to do business, we're also going to have a good time in it. What do you say, Stephen? What could be possible pitfalls of doing business with friends and family?
Well, before we go to the pitfalls, I want to say, I think anytime you do business with anybody, I think it's amazing. Grow your business, trying to make money, adding something to the community and to the universe right out there.
Right.
So anybody that you do business with, you should always have some kind of, I like to say it's unconditional trust. You're getting married. You're creating something new.
Right.
So the pitfalls are similar to that of a marriage. Being afraid that it really is you're sharing a bank account with potentially millions of dollars in there, or hundreds of thousands of dollars moving every month or every week, depending on the kind of scale of your business.
Sure.
And who has access to it. A lot of times I see people with their friends and family do business just with a handshake, which is great. It's nice, but
Major no-no.
At the end of the day, the amount of money that you spend on litigation and consultations with attorneys about how you're going to divide that business or what your protections are after the fact is tremendous compared to what you would have had if you spoken to an attorney, had an agreement in writing, had an operating agreement, a shareholder agreement, or a joint venture agreement that said, listen, if we ever want to break up, what are we going to do? How are we going to break this up?
You brought a very good analogy, as if you're getting married. So now it's very acceptable before getting into marriage, doing a prenup agreement, right? So this is sort of like a prenup, but for businesses, correct?
Right. There really should be no egos in a business. Like I hear, how could you not trust me? I'm your brother. I've had brothers sue each other over houses and medallions. I've had sisters sue each other over businesses and business structures. It's unfortunate. One of the biggest cases that I think I started off with was two siblings who sued each other over a taxi medallion.
Right.
When the taxi medallion was worth $2 million, it was great. When it was worth $100,000, there was an argument of, hey, who's going to pay the mortgage on that? Who's going to do this?
You know, it's funny you mention it. People get into litigation. I've seen when things are going very well, you're making a lot of money, and there are issues. Why is this guy getting so much money as opposed to me? And when the business is distressed, that's when you always get into litigation, right?
Right. And even when it's doing well, I'm a working partner. You took this time off. Why should we split the same money? What did you bring into the business? These are really questions that you should have all beforehand. Have an open, honest conversation. It's what causes a breakup I would say in a relationship as well as in a business is expectations that have never been spoken about.
Right.
You have to have your expectations and how you're going to work in the business together spoken about immediately upon opening up the business. Friends and family is great. You've been able to play basketball together on a field. You should be able to run a business together, but it's two completely different things.
Right.
But like in basketball or any other team sport, you talk about your expectations. You talk about passing. You talk about doing this. You talk about who gets the credit. So the same thing in a business. You want to make sure you're open and honest about how you're doing it, the business, and in writing. So that way there's never a question of what was said.
Yeah. And you better go to an attorney before you open the company, before you distribute the shares, right? Because you have to
Yeah.
have, I think we talked about it, a operating agreement, bylaws, but that spell out different outcomes. Like what happens if you want to buy out your partner, correct?
Right. And, 50% of the consultations I do on any given day seem to be, especially during the pandemic. And let's be honest, when it gets really hard, people want to figure out a way how they can protect themselves.
Mhm.
So a partition action is a legal terminology of when you divide a house or a property that you're with a partner with. How do you do this?
Right.
There's the law part where the judge will decide for you, and then you have to prove a lot of the nonsense for the last 20 years, who did what when, and who gets how much, or you already had it in writing and already decided on.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure, listen, you could always change it. A paper is as good as how much you give credit to it. So if you're going to say, listen, this is what the paper said, I was supposed to get 50%, no questions asked, but you paid a little more, you could always do that. Have these conversations, but at least have it in writing.
Very
And
important.
a lot of the questions I have during the pandemic was, my partner stopped paying the mortgage. This didn't happen.
Yeah.
They're living there. I'm not living there. I should get more. I should get
Yeah.
less. What do we do?
Absolutely. Listen, thank you for your wise words, words of admonition. And of course, today we're talking only generally. We're not giving any legal advice. If you want legal advice, you have to call an attorney like Stephen Yuniver. But I want to chime in for myself from a business perspective. Sometimes people go into business with friends because they don't have faith in themselves that I could run business by myself. They want to have somebody that they can rely on, maybe for their ear, talk things out. And what I've seen is that sometimes it's dangerous when you don't have partners that have separate responsibilities. You're responsible for ABC. I'm responsible for XYZ. This way there is accountability, right? So, Stephen, can you draft something like this in an operating agreement? Who does what, and what happens if the other party does not perform the way they promised in an agreement?
100%. I think this is all written in an operating agreement, a partnership agreement, and even a working partners agreement. You should understand what the roles are. Doesn't mean you can't ask your partner for help, or
Right.
that partner is not going to be part of the business. As a business owner myself, my partner and I overlap a lot.
Right.
So sometimes I just take a step back and I say, this is your avenue. I have my opinions. Here they are, but I'm 100% behind you. That's also something that in outside the legal part, you have to, if in a partnership, this is something that you should always discuss.
Perfect. Okay, Stephen, thank you so much. What I want to add to this is that when you go to an attorney, be very transparent. It's as if you're talking to a doctor, right, Stephen? Your clients need to tell you A to Z, the exact nature of the relationship between them and their partners, who does what are their, what's their thought process of how the business will continue. And this way you can draft a correct operating agreement for that company, for that person.
Correct.
Yep, very good. Stephen, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in. And we're going to come back with more FAQs on commercial real estate and doing business in the state of New York. And I want to talk next about if you're a landlord or if you're a tenant in a commercial building, what is the status of evictions right now in New York State? And what are some possible defenses? What are some of the possible ways tenants and landlords can protect themselves? Stay tuned until next one. Thank you.
Thank you again, Michael.
Thanks.